Jack Saunderson, and I'm the owner of Patio Café, which is the longest running business in Dana Point, and it's the second longest running Mexican restaurant in Orange County. My mother cooked for a boarding house. A lot of it was for the Cottons estates. My grandmother was cooking for all the hands, which I think there at one time was up to like 300 people that worked for the Cottons estate. She would make all the meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At the time, there was leftovers, and she would roll them in little burritos, and she would take them on the evening and walk on down Trestles and Cottons Point, San Onofre, and sell and put a flower in her hair, and she would sell burritos. And the surfers, the pioneer surfers, not only bought from her, but they became their friend. And so she was quite popular. There was no stores down back then. There was nothing to buy. There was nothing there. So they waited every day for her to go down there. And a lot of those are the pioneer surfers that we know today. But it was like the old surfboards, the old wood surfboards. It was the birth of surfing, and my mother saw it firsthand. And it's quite a legacy to have that type of history of watching the very first surfers surfing the area. And so I remember one time she told me that everybody saw them people surfing, and they were running and grabbing the barns and pulling pieces of wood off the barn, and they figured that they could try to ride the surf too, because they were so astonished on seeing people surf. Lauren Harrison, Pops Proctor, Ron Drummond, a lot of the legends, they all, Del Velzy, they just became really good friends. It wasn't until she decided to leave the ranch and start her first restaurant. I think Del Velzy was the first person to give the $1 to Lucy. He just said, if you ever open a restaurant, he goes, I want to give you the first $1. And so he was waiting when she pulled up to her first restaurant. He was waiting with the first $1. She encouraged people to surf and do what they like to do. And so people would come to the restaurant, and most every surfboard or every idea was drawn on a little napkin at El Patio. I remember her giving loans to people for things, letting them use the building when they were closed to come up with ideas. I mean, you had all the Hobie factory across the street. You had all these different guys. I mean, there were some shapers that were so tired that they would lay in the booth and said, she closed between 2 and 4. She said, you mind if I just stay here and sleep? Because I got to shape like 10 more boards. She goes, oh yeah, here, I'll get you a blanket or something, She was my mother just loved surfing, and she loved supporting all the different people with the different inventions that they had. The inventors of the surf leash, the Clark foam, Hoffman fabrics, Terry Martin, more surfboards in the world. Where did he meet somebody if they wanted a board? They said, meet me at El Patio and we'll talk about your new surfboard. When they auctioned off Terry Martin's famous van, it had an El Patio shirt inside it. It represented what he was about, what El Patio meant to him. Surfer Magazine, it was just like, they were there meeting, trying to figure out how they were going to start this magazine. And she was one of the ones that kind of said, okay, there's a building right down the way, and I think we can get a deal on it, but most of them had meetings that was their office. El Patio Cafe was every surfer's office. I remember when Ron Drummond and Lauren Harrison would always walk into the restaurant, and they would have a big plastic bucket of abalone. They'd say, hey, to my mother and say, hey, we got like 6 guys. Is there enough for like taco dinners for 6 guys? And my mother would come out and get the bucket and go, yeah, that's 6 dinners, And so we always had tons of abalone because all the fishermen and all the surfers knew they could trade to have tacos and have meals, and it was real popular.